Hello, everybody. You're listening to The Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 326, The Biggest Losers. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to The Big Chill Podcast. Sam is now back live in studio after a 6-month hiatus, and Eddie has continued to be here even without Sam. But I think the starting point that I thought most interesting is Eddie's 49ers, coming off 2-0, are now losers. My New York Giants, playing the terrible Atlanta Falcons, lost, and only Sam's Cincinnati Bengals overcome the Steel City Pittsburgh Steelers and win. Who would have guessed that would have been the win out of the three teams?
Me.
Yeah. Quite a lot of people, actually. I mean, it's not as if any of them were heavy favorites / heavy underdogs. It's not like
well, you didn't
stunning.
pick them, Eddie. So
I picked the Giants to lose, so I got that right.
Steelers to win.
I picked the Steelers and I picked the Niners, so I was 1 from 3. But between us, we picked every possible outcome that you have. So,
but hedging the bets right there.
I mean, I might object slightly to you referring to the Niners as losers. I mean, they lost, but kind of classifying them generally as losers might be going a little bit too far.
I think when you don't win, you lose. So they're losers.
Right, but losing doesn't make you a loser. In the grand scheme of things.
Like, if you continue to lose games, you're a loser, or do you mean loser in terms of like you love Star Wars too much? So yeah, exactly.
They're not like, dweebs. Yes,
exactly.
Okay.
Jimmy G's super cool, even when he doesn't throw touchdown passes.
Are you more or less on the Jimmy G continuing to start bandwagon?
I mean, it was more of the same. I guess is this where we're just starting right and we're hopping right in here? It was more of the same.
No, this is actually all you're getting of the Niners. So this is your chance.
Okay. There were some good things in that game. I think the second half, they were really good to come back from the deficit that they had but it's kind of feast or famine with Jimmy G, and he misses a lot of open receivers. He makes a lot of dumb decisions. But he can make some really good throws at the same time, and he can help put together. He can kind of marshal some really good drives. So there were lots of positives. My feeling is exactly the same, which is they're taking their time and 6 or 7 weeks in, you're going to see Trey Lance. But
I think you're going to start to see him more and more after he came in a little bit and was an instant impact in that last game. So,
but they also need to not fall into the trap, right? Which is he can come in for more gimmicky plays, and he can come in there and and make a difference. But that's very different to the challenge of actually reading an NFL defense and working through your progressions. And we've kind of seen that this year so far with all the other rookies. I mean, the rookie quarterbacks so far have won 1 game. And the only game, and the only time a rookie quarterback won a game was when he was playing against another rookie quarterback. So
it had to happen, basically.
And the stats aren't great. I think it's 4 touchdowns versus 11 interceptions or something like that, half of which are Trevor Lawrence, but still not great statistics for the rookies. But we can get into the NFL a little later, but I think first we need to bring Sam in and hear about this epic 4-week vacation he took, missing about 8 podcast episodes.
Double that, you've exaggerated slightly, but what I'm learning here is Frank's become quite dictatorial in the podcast regime. He's like, Eddie, you've got your slot now, talk it. We're not talking NFL anymore. Back to Sam. It's like, wow, he's running the show. No, I've missed a few. It's been good listening to you guys though, and how you somehow rip into me. Other opportunities, it's up on a platter and you don't. It's kind of thrown me off a little bit listening back, but it's good to be back. Have you guys missed me, Mr. Dynamic?
Eddie, you can answer now.
That bit wasn't edited out, by the way. That was just silence.
I'll make that silence longer in editing.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be happy, right? Your bet won. Your bet of the week won. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been allowed back on. So
I would have had the fourfold. I mean, I know the Thursday night rule applies, so fine, that's fine. But yeah, when it matters, the squid delivers. So
yeah, I guess we're not getting Frank. We're not getting any exciting content from Mykonos. I guess family weddings maybe not the most thrilling events to attend from a story standpoint.
This is always going to be explicit, isn't it? So it's fine if they do come
Some
up.
stories Sam had a week vacation on a nice exotic island, and his story is my threefold that should have been a fourfold one.
My survival on the podcast endured. No, I'll tell you what, you guys mentioned that it's kind of like well known as a gay island. I didn't see it. Like I
You
really
didn't see it, or you
it.
didn't experience it?
Two sides of the same coin.
Also, what are you expecting to see?
Well, you know, like rainbow planes flying in, like I want the whole thing. But no,
you want
it's
it to look more like Brighton.
Brighton doesn't look that gay. But anyway, it looks like
what
a
are
million.
you expecting to see?
Only you see, this is,
anymore.
and I don't mean this in a bad way, but this is where you do get into those fine lines of only a gay person could say what you've just said. Because if I went on a holiday and I was like, it didn't look very gay, people would be like, homophobe. Oh, what a bigot.
Hey, when is it going to be the straight white man's turn, eh?
I know. It's been a rough couple of years and I want to be right back on top pretty soon.
But no, Mykonos comes across more as like a millionaire's playground. Like it basically looks like kind of Santorini, like everything is like the white houses, everything is ridiculously expensive. Like I went into one of the gay bars there, which is called Scandinavian Bar, which I asked about 10 people and they have no understanding of why they've called it that. They just have. And it cost like 20 euros for a G&T. But then there's a shop next door that serves the local beer for €1.50. And so it's kind of weird. It's like, I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Now,
it was good fun.
Is 20 euros expensive for a grab and tug? Or that seems pretty fair to me.
That's kind of well thought out on the spot. Like, yeah, and the gin and tonics are even more expensive. It's crazy. But no, and then you guys mentioned that obviously came back to have my flat, I'll use inverted commas even though no one can say it, flooded. It was no way as bad as the emails and that suggested, but yeah, there's a bit of damage. It was a bit annoying. Had to cut the power and things like that. So not the best thing to come back to, but here I am. So I survived. I survived a really tough holiday and some light inconvenience to my house.
I feel bad for you.
Were you able to keep up with Ted Lasso?
I was. And that has been a proper Jekyll and Hyde few episodes that we've gone through. So as you guys have said, right, we'll talk about Ted Lasso obviously in a second, but the last three in complete summation for me are the one just before I left, or just as you guys were reviewing when I left, was the best one of the season. The Coach Beer inspired episode was one of the worst, maybe on par with the Christmas, maybe worse. I just thought it was meant to be like a really awful train spotting, and I just didn't like it. Nothing hit, nothing connected for me. And then we're on to this one. So I don't know if you want to go straight into it or...
We should say our no spoiler alert. So anyone who has not listened, be prepared because we will spoil it for you. And with that, should we get into the episode?
Yeah. I mean, the most emotional Ted Lasso episode so far. And really tugging at the viewer's heartstrings throughout. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I think they're playing a lot of the notes that you know are going to go down well. That it's pretty easy to do the father and son or, you know, child parent sad story, and that as a viewer you're gonna be able to relate to it in one way or another. It's gonna make you feel a little bit sad. It's, you know, and that's not knocking it. but you would expect them to be able to do that pretty well, and they did. And there were elements that were kind of creative, but there were also parts of it that bothered me. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode.
So I know part of the reason that your score will be lower is because it didn't have any football in this episode at all, which we talk about is the downside.
I mean, that didn't bother me that much. Did you know the only thing that really bothered me from this episode, which was the only kind of football-related thing? The fact that they all attended...
I know it's going to be. The sneakers?
What? No, that didn't bother me that much. The fact that they all attended the football match, they turned up in the team bus. The fact that they rolled up to a funeral in the team bus.
Well, I'll tell you what bothered me about that is they rolled up in a team bus and then everyone walks right by her without like condoling her or saying like sorry for your loss, giving like a hug or a kiss or something. Well, everyone just like walks right by her, just like head nods. Like,
well, they make
a
play on that though. But they make a play on that though, right? Because when I can't remember his name, he says like I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to say what they said, so I wanted to say something else. But he just ends up saying sorry for your loss anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, I didn't actually think about the team bus plowing up
just
to a
unbelievable
church.
And also quick turnaround on the funeral, from death to funeral, very fast, but also very considerate of her father to die during what clearly must have been an international break. Because funeral on the Saturday and they could all attend, so that was considerate of him. And
he was a Richmond fan.
And no Richmond players play international football, which isn't that surprising, I guess. Although their goalkeepers Canadian,
Premier League team.
You'd have thought Danny Rojas might be making the Mexican team.
Ooh, yeah. They are stereotyping him relentlessly, aren't they? Like it's becoming painful. Highly disrespectful of church proceeds and processes, I think. When they sneak a bottle of wine into where she's in the grieving room of sorts.
Yeah,
and just start talking about who you're plowing.
Coach Beard wearing a hat throughout the... Also, too, it felt a lot like an American, presumably a Catholic, writing about attending a British church and a funeral. Because there were things that were just not consistent with going to, for example, the glorious return of the 13-year-old girl, which is what Ted Lasso needs more of. But she apologized. She said, "Sorry, Father," at one moment, and he'd be a vicar. You wouldn't be calling him Father. Vicar.
Even I know that.
After calling her a boss ass bitch, yes. He said sorry, Father. Yes. It's like that bit didn't land.
I thought that was kind of funny when she said that.
I just honestly can't get out of my head though. The team bus parking near the graveyard is making me laugh more and more. Like almost a beeping as they come along as well.
And then do they just camp out there and wait for it to end? Like they're just in front of the church the whole time, waiting for everyone to come back in?
You see it at the end, right? Because Ted Lasso then doesn't, because he goes home with Sassy. What does she go by?
Sassy.
Yeah. But yeah, they just pile back onto the team bus, which presumably is then taking them back to the ground. And then from there, they're then all making their way home. It's just not it's not logistically very sensible, but it's also, I think, mildly disrespectful too. Also to have this big red team bus pull up right outside the church. But
or also bringing the bottle of wine into the church as well, pre-funeral, to talk about the guy you're sleeping with.
She didn't bring it. She stole it from the, I don't know, an altar boy. I don't know what you would call it in the UK.
Yeah.
It's God's. So as long as it's God's wine, or like Jesus, the blood of the Savior.
Yeah, it's the blood of Christ that they were drinking.
The thing that struck me is like, is Ted Lasso at his best? Not him himself, but is the program better when it's sad? Because now at the moment, whenever they have the moments of like when Jason Sudeikis is doing like a really good performance, in my opinion, with the therapist, talking about like the father-son relationship he had, or when he first opens up on the phone call with the therapist, and when now that I can never remember the owner's name, but like when she opens up with her mother, it's felt like all the 4 or 5 episodes where they have created those poignant moments, like in season 1, episode 5, where Ted and Coach Beer have that drink.
Wow.
And it's quite a sad moment when they have the divorce.
The episode's memorized. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's great. I just think it's better when it's serious in a way.
So
No,
I
you're
think
right.
why that works, it works well because you have the contrast then between the sadness of the episode with a fundamentally happy premise and fundamentally happy and cheerful people. So Ted Lasso becomes a more compelling character himself because you have the smiley, happy, everything is always going to be fine, everything's positive, but then you're seeing the kind of second layer to his personality. And then you're also seeing him try to battle the sadness of the situation with his overall happy approach to life. And it makes him kind of a more realistic character in the process because the real life version of him just can't exist. Just the constant, nonstop cheerfulness, happiness, pop culture references all the time. So they just need to not overdo it. It just, not everyone needs to have a really sad backstory, and we don't have to feel as if let's learn more and let's try and process every possible major situation of human struggle and grief through this football team being managed by an American.
Yeah, I think it makes the show feel a little more realistic too, because a lot of times what you get with comedies is that they're just so unreal. Like I mean, I love The Office; it's one of my all-time favorite shows, but it is so unrealistic in every sense of the way. Like, there's no way Michael Scott is still working after the first 3 episodes, So the fact that they have some real life emotions makes it a more realistic premise in some ways, and it makes it more, I think, relatable. Therefore, like, it becomes a better comedy. I mean, I personally, I think this is one of the better episodes overall. There was a lot of good random little jokes tied in with some serious moments. The performances I thought were really good. Jason Sudeikis was really, really good. I mean, Roy Kent is still crushing it. That opening scene with Keeley, and they're talking about what he would like to do when he dies if he's hit by a bus, and he's like, "You're gonna go and get that bus driver." Like, that whole part I thought was pretty good. And then when she's like, I want to be buried, and he's like, "No, I'm not gonna eat your apples. It's disgusting."
I didn't find the chasing down the bus driver bit to be that to me is when they lean too hard into the Roy Kent character. I did like the bit about the disgusting aspect, and when he made the joke of eating the apple that tasted like dead people when he came into the church. That was a good joke. But I think you're a big Roy Kent fanboy, right? And you just eat up anything he says. I find at times they just go a little too hard into the here he is, no emotion robot of swearing, and occasionally it's just it's too predictable. And then they do the opposite thing where they then completely flip who he is for certain episodes, and suddenly he's this emotional mess who's a little too, in touch with the sort of softer side of his personality all of a sudden. But
I think the person who's flipped though in these last few is Coach Beard. That was a character that I genuinely enjoyed, and now that his standalone episode didn't hit with me, and now this one where he's like FaceTiming his girlfriend. And I think you get that implication that they then were going to like have phone sex because she was turned on that he was in the church. Did you read into that as well? Like, that was really strange.
In the very least, it was getting like a sick level of pleasure out of other people's grief, which again seems inconsistent with his original part of him as a character, which he seemed like a very sort of as unemotional as well as he was a sort of steadying influence on Ted Lasso, and he was there as the sensible, reliable,
high morals, respectable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, you're kind of a dick. Because if I was at my funeral, if I was at my funeral, I'd be really upset.
That'd be awesome.
But if I was at if I was at a family member's funeral and I guess we can classify him as a friend, but in the very least, let's say employee was FaceTiming it so that they could sort of revel in the grief and the sadness of the overall situation, I mean, I'd be firing him straight away. That's for sure.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, that bit I didn't understand. But speaking of the kind of main cast, the interesting bit at the end with Nate and Rupert. So we all alluded to it, at the start of season 2 about this kind of power struggle where Rupert maybe gets into like a power struggle about buying the club or like trying to get the club. Clearly, when Rupert has the conversation with Nate after saying he's just going to give the shares up, I think he struck a deal with Nate to become like part owner of the club or something like that, and then bring Rupert on, or I don't know. It He whispers into his ear for some sort of scheming reason, right?
I don't know what it.
Oh,
I
I
don't know
think
what it was, and I'm sure
I
we'll
think
find
it's
out soon.
I think
2
it's him
episodes left.
saying. I think it's him saying he'd be manager. I think that's what it is.
I don't get is
That's a good thought.
I just he's the I mean Coach Beard has kind of gone off the rails a little bit, but I think he's the only character in the show that I genuinely don't like, and it's a shame because I like the actor. Like I think it could be a good role, but even in the episode, I forget what it was in the beginning, it was when they were talking about death sitting around. He just had like such a douchey comment. Like everything he says is just like he's such.
I
a
just
prick.
said he wanted to be reincarnated as
Oh
something.
yeah,
Like a
no,
panther?
as a lion, so he could eat and devour everyone that has wronged him. Like, come on,
Yeah.
like that.
They're doing a bit of a weird. You might be right. They might be doing that really weird, obvious thing where it's like, oh, the guy you least expect suddenly becomes the bastard by the end of it because he's been scheming and playing this kind of nice, naive person, like some sort of weird Scooby Doo episode where it's like, oh, it can possibly be him, and then it's like, let's unveil, and then they rip off his mask and it's him. If that is true, Eddie, I think it's annoyingly obvious now that it's happened just because of like a 2-second moment.
I mean, there's something there, right? So you're right. There's some element of a plan or a scheme. So who knows? But yeah, I guess we'll find out. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. Better than I would say it's the best episode of season 2 for me.
It's a shame that Coach Beard standalone episode is in the middle, because if it weren't for that episode, now the last 3 or so have really been picking it up. Like if you took that episode out right now, it'd be saying the last 3 or 4 have been really good and it's getting back to levels. But it's just you have like that like blip where like it was getting better, dropped, and now it's picked back up.
Well, I think especially if you took the Coach Beard episode out and the Christmas episode out, then you would definitely feel as if I'd still feel as if this season was not as good as the first one, but I wouldn't feel like it was a major drop off in quality between the two. But that just sort of disrupted, and it makes sense based on what we spoke about on what you brought up on the podcast before, that those were made after the fact. But they did really disrupt the flow. And in the same thing, right? You had the emotional setup from the end of the FA Cup semifinal for this moment that got disrupted by Coach Beard going on a weird night out in London.
Being haunted by Gary Lineker and Thierry Henry.
Yeah, I mean, nice cameo for them. Nice little payday for them.
It's what Thierry Henry saying, like he should kill himself. It's probably one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. Like they paid Thierry Henry to say, like, as a coach, if you do something wrong, you should probably kill yourself. Like that's what he's just advocated. It's a bit of a strange one, but I agree, because one of my best moments so far, I know you guys spoke about it, but was when Jamie Tartt punched his dad. And then you just saw Roy Kent go over and just hug him. Like that was like a really, really good moment. Probably the best moment of the season. But I agree with you, Eddie. I think the first season was better, but the second one is it's good, but it's just grittier. So it just has a different tone to it. It's just a bit more like it takes on just a few more damaging topics, I guess.
And here's my real question then. Is she going to leave Roy Kent for Jamie Tartt? Because I think she will.
I don't think she does. I think it causes some sort of situation to kind of like make it exciting, but I think at the end she chooses Roy. It is a shame, because as I was watching that episode, I was thinking too, Jamie's a good character and he could be a funny character and a good a good side part of the show, but he doesn't have any conflict or anything going on. You know, like his main talking point right now these past few episodes has been with his teammates like Danny Rojas, which is a small little thing. Like he deserves a little more. I think he's funny, and I think he's a good character on the show. But I guess this is the way to try and reintroduce him back, but I don't think it's going to work very well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And he is, of the players, he is the most interesting character left. Danny Rojas, he's so one-dimensional that it is just, he's so boring for the most part for me. Just
he's like
mindless.
Kevin from The Office. Just he's very one-dimensional.
Yeah. But, you know, he went to the Guildford School of Acting or whatever, Guildford School of the Arts, Sam, the actor who plays Danny Rojas.
Oh, what? He went... Oh, GSA. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not showing because I think it's quite a good school.
Wow. Shots fired.
Just like footballers like dressing up. Like we've seen it so much when they dress up like that. I don't understand where that has come from. But you know what? It's
wait. What are we going? Oh, you're on the trainers thing.
I'm on the trainers thing
because that wasn't what we were when we were calling him one dimensional. It wasn't about their shoes, but I don't know. I do. The only part of that was mildly funny was when the one footballer said, I don't have time to queue up and get shoes. And they're like, no. And Jamie Tart was like, nobody wants these shoes. You could just go and buy them. That was a bit funny. And Jamie Tart's comment also in the church that these shoes were made for like sad people and twats or whatever he says. That was also kind of, you know, it hits home if you have to sort of dress up and wear shoes to work and you kind of go,
and you hate yourself in your job.
Yeah, ideally I wouldn't want to be wearing these, but yeah, no, it wasn't. They leaned into that one a little bit too hard too.
So 2 episodes left, and yeah. I think if they keep at this trajectory, we could be, you know, I think it could wrap the season up nicely on a high note.
Well, I mean, the big question then is, when we've debated it several times, are they getting promoted? We have no idea where they are in the table.
Yeah, I've got no. As far as I'm concerned, they're still in they're in January.
What a twist if it would be like, going into the final match of the season, and Richmond are 5th from bottom. All they need
because they haven't played any of their games.
Yeah, they forfeited a match last weekend to attend a funeral, a controversial move.
The team bus went the wrong way.
Yeah. Star player Danny Rojas has destroyed his career by damaging his feet.
And that's the other thing, too, is, I mean, I know dress shoes aren't the most comfortable, but they're not that uncomfortable. It looked as if someone took a sledgehammer to Danny Rojas's feet.
But
speaking of television.
Frank, Eddie, this is the Frank show.
Yeah,
This is the Duke.
Yes.
The Duke
Go on,
dance.
Don't disappoint with your transition.
Speaking of television, I turned on Netflix the other day and had a great surprise as to what popped up on my new shows list. Season 9 of the Great British Bake Off has started.
I'm not wasting time on the podcast talking about this.
Cake Week aired on Friday.
To me, this is the element of TV that's just ruining society. It started with Strictly Come Dancing, which Americans will know as
Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars. Just this mindless turning basic tasks or elements that we were not interested in. You know, no one appreciated bakers before. And then, we make a TV show about it. Now I want to see everything. I don't bake. I want to see how they bake.
I disagree with that a lot. I mean, I do go to bakeries, or especially when we're in France, we'd go to bakeries and get nice pastries and baked goods and things like that. And I bake on a decently regular basis.
But that was happening. But that's been happening in France for hundreds of years. That isn't that wasn't characterized because of the television that it's exploded in France.
I just think it's done such a damage, and I think it's part of the reason why Netflix has then done well, is because it's made network television stations around the world just go, you know what's a lot easier to do is make mindless reality TV, which costs a whole lot less to make. We don't have to have anyone write anything. We just stick 10 people and we make them do something: cook, bake, sew,
Survive.
make what. That's at least a little more interesting. If there were actual stakes of dying, I'd be all for it. But
Drag.
yeah,
Race
whatever
around,
it is,
race
and,
around America.
Okay.
and we've just killed.
Be a big brother.
In the process, we've kind of killed the creativity and the quality content that should be coming out, and it's actually played into the hands then of Netflix or, you know, any of the other major streaming platforms, because then they can throw money at people who otherwise would be on network TV shows who don't have space for it, they have no platform anymore anywhere else, and then they make really great content. And it's kind of short-term thinking from the prospect. And then all that ends up happening is they sell it to Netflix in the long run anyway. So then you go, oh, I didn't watch the Great British Bake Off when it was on the BBC or on ITV, and now I'll watch it on Netflix.
So
What's
I
that?
couldn't. I wasn't able to. So
there is that Family Guy where it's like Fox is now owned by Disney, which will eventually be owned by Netflix, which will eventually be owned by Pornhub.
No, I mean, that's the path we are going down. But yeah, I think
I kind of agree with you, because isn't there a show on Netflix which is kind of like the anti Bake Off, where they get like 6 people in who have never baked in their life, and then they do baking, and it's kind of like, but that has no effect either. Like,
there's a show on Food Network. It's like Worst Cooks in America.
Yeah, but I mean, this is all you had to do. You either get people who are really good at it to do it, or you get people who are really bad at it to do it, and people find it equally compelling.
Hey,
that's the difference. Great British Bake Off is
if
just amateurs who are slightly good at it. So
but they're not real. Hold on. A lot of them are not real. What are we classifying as an amateur baker? I mean, we're not talking about professional athletes here.
They don't bake for a living.
Yeah, but there's not that many like pro bakers out there. You know what I mean? Like it is by its very nature
amount.
has been.
That would have been a good transition to Baker Mayfield and NFL, by the way. But going back to the win-loser thing. So if you win the worst, like the Biggest Loser, right? If you win the worst, you are the worst, but you're the winner. Does that make you a winner?
But you're not the worst, because in the end, you've kind of been the best. Because they don't reward someone for just continuing to make food that's totally not edible.
You're best of the worst.
It's not like good news. Every judge got food poisoning every round. Congratulations.
Why did we ask him to cook pork in this round?
And Sam, the analogy to Biggest Loser there could create an enormous issue. You just said they're not going to reward the person who has gained the most weight over the show.
But here's my transition then, before we do go on to the NFL. Both the biggest winners and losers, once again for me, the US Ryder Cup team, who put on an incredible performance. I mean, I thought it was a bit of a mismatch anyway going into it when we did our preview last week. It kind of went the way I expected it to go.
Wait, can I guess your negative?
Go for it.
Are you going to have what you didn't like about it?
I mean, it's my negative. I think it's
going to be
my negative.
I think it's going to be the way they celebrated.
Just the overall atmosphere and just the way they carry themselves. Just a lack of decorum, a lack of no humility when they win, ever. It's consistently the issue. It's what I go into the Ryder Cup every time, and I kind of don't care who wins. You know, as a European, it doesn't. The concept of Europe playing golf, I don't become in any way patriotic about it. And I think that every time as the Ryder Cup starts, just thinking, I just want action and thrills and some good golf to be played. And in an ideal situation, I want it to be all up to play for on a putt in the final singles on Sunday on the 18th hole. That's the dream scenario. And then I see how the Americans celebrate and behave throughout the course of it. And then I start thinking to myself, fucking American scum.
Can I just add that there's two moments. No, there's two moments, right? And it's when Justin Thomas had the beer on what was it, like the second afternoon, and it's DeChambeau when he put his putter down at like, why haven't you conceded this hole? Those were the two things that got me. And it, like, obviously there's fans that are going to win, like, say things at bad timing. Like, you can't control every single one, and that's understandable at a Ryder Cup. But those two things from the people playing are only going to make the crowd be more partisan. And those two things bugged me the most. So I agree with Eddie. It was like the manner of how they went about it was bad.
This is so great because it plays perfectly into the pre-recording chat that Sam and I had, that my father thinks you're the most anti-American person on the planet. And he literally went onto a 10-minute rant one day about how you're so anti-American. It's unbelievable. And your quote right before plays
I'm
that
calling them
so
American scum.
well.
But look, there's lots of things I love about America. The way in which they celebrate is probably not one of them. And I actually think caused the country as a whole a lot of problems over in recent years that sometimes, I mean, it's stealing other comedians' bits, right? But the idea of just not consistently calling yourself number one would maybe piss people off a little bit less if you just thought maybe top 10 in some things, just not the best in the world and everything. But I actually think I contrasted it too. So the Solheim Cup, which I really enjoyed watching a couple of weeks ago, also in the US, very partisan crowd. I got no problem with people cheering and celebrating for the team that they want to win. But actually, because with the pandemic and stuff, there was almost no Europeans in attendance at either event. And at the Solheim Cup, there seemed by the crowd some acknowledgement of this fact, that it wasn't the normal, obviously you'd normally have the home crowd outnumber the visiting crowd anyway, but there would be a bit of a balance. And for the Solheim Cup, people sort of showed a little degree of respect and decided, you know what, we kind of got to cheer for the Europeans a bit too at times because they're not getting the support they would normally have. And for the Ryder Cup, there was none of that. It was just full on. And what bothers me about it is just, it is very much when you're winning, loudest people on earth. But you've lost most of the Ryder Cups in recent years, and there's been a lot of Sundays of very quiet golf courses. And so I think that's the balance of the reaction when you win versus contrasted with the reaction when you lose just doesn't sit well as a non-American when I watch it. And I then compared that with, I mean, I don't know if you saw Rory McIlroy crying during his interview, but the difference of him speaking about how this is the event that means the most to him in the world. I mean, his literal words were he doesn't give a shit about all of his individual performances when he compares it with how much the Ryder Cup means, that if this hadn't gone the way they wanted it to go, but he hoped that it at least has inspired future generations of golfers. The Americans have been great. The captains on the European team didn't deserve the blame, and that hopefully next time around they do better. And then he wanted to be part of it for a long time. That to me kind of represented the overall European ethos that you see throughout the Ryder Cup experience. And you wouldn't have had Brooks Koepka doing that had Europe wiped the floor with the Americans.
Spoken like a true loser.
If the US had lost, Koepka and DeChambeau wouldn't be doing that kind of weird bromance hug at the end of it, right? They would have been at each other's throats massively again. It is a classic sing when you're winning kind of moment. But interesting point, Eddie, like you mentioned about the Ryder Cup, kind of like Europeans have dominated, but actually over the last four, the home team have dominated every single one massively. And like you say, those moments like the Miracle of Medina, those are the moments for me that personify the Ryder Cup. Is like how close it always is going into the singles usually, save, like I said, the Medina one. Is there a slight worry with the Ryder Cup that the home side are always going to dominate now because they're making it too one-sided, where how they pick the course, how they change the course, how they alter it. So now we're just going to see one-sided year on year. So Europe will win it when it goes to Rome because they've now got 2 years to understand exactly what to do to make it so European focused. Do you see the point I'm getting at? Are we just going to have like the US win in the USA, Europe win in Europe?
I don't think you have a choice unless you decide to start hosting the Ryder Cup in a neutral venue, because you just
Like-
don't have, Europe is links golf courses. That's what, you don't get many non-links golf courses in Europe. And so, whereas in the US, the vast majority of golf courses are not link style golf courses, and the style in which you have to play, the role the elements play in, which is what people had spoken about actually coming into this, because it was on Lake Michigan, and because wind has more of an effect at Whistling Straits. I mean, I guess it's comes through the name, but than it does
Never
at maybe
thought
some
about
other golf courses in the US that they thought Europe had a better chance because of that fact. But I just don't think there's anything you can do. You just know if the golf course is really long and straight, the US is probably going to have a big advantage. If it's more technical, and if you have to play, if course management is a larger part of what is going to lead to you being successful, then Europe will have the advantage. And it would be asking a lot from one of them to decide, let's go out of our way to level the playing field and pick a course that intentionally goes against our strengths and plays into the strengths of our opponent. But
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't
it
announce it till the week before.
where they're going.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone has equal opportunity to prepare. There's nothing stopping from Brooks Koepka going to play golf a few times over the next few years in Rome. Put it this way, I bet you very few of the Americans are even going to bother to attend any of the European Tour events that take place at the events in question. I mean, you see that, like when it was in Paris, not many of them had played at the Golf National, the course where it was held, a couple of years ago. You could have gone and played the French Open. That was the only advantage that the Europeans really had. It was like, yeah, we play on the European Tour sometimes, and we play events at these courses, and then it also suits our natural style of golf. But I don't know. I mean,
Why
I don't
would
see
you
a
leave the
problem with
best
it.
country in the world to go play at an inferior country?
What, like Europe?
Yeah.
All of Europe.
Don't call Europe a country.
But yeah, I mean,
I
look,
meant
that
France,
was
but I'll pick on all of Europe.
Okay. Neutral
Speaking
country.
of-
Where's it going? Like Afghanistan or
Australia.
Saudi Arabia? That would be your neutral country. I don't know where else.
the neutral country, the natural. If you were really trying to do it, it would be very boring, and it would remove all the atmosphere from the Ryder Cup. Would be to go and play it somewhere like Dubai, where
Saudi Arabia or whatever.
they are American style golf courses, so it would be advantage America, but the Europeans do play on them more frequently. So, it'd be a mix, and I'm sure you could alter the course slightly to try and, change it a bit. But yeah, that would be the sort of sensible neutral venue.
Speaking of the winners and losers of the Ryder Cup, do you think, I personally thought this was a huge win for DeChambeau. What do you think? I mean, especially the first hole on, was it Sunday, when he drove, the green and then made the eagle? I think after he made that eagle, he just felt so much better about what everyone else feels about him.
No, I think it's what we spoke about going into it, right? This was the opportunity for him to change opinion and to become someone people support. And I agree with you. I think he is the big winner. I don't think there was necessarily a big loser out of it. Ian Poulter won his singles, right? So he keeps his singles record going.
Besides Team Europe.
Well, I mean, in the end, the USA.
This is what Eddie is on about, by the way.
I know he's joking.
I know you're kind of.
But you see, this is what I'd say is you're kind of joking, but you're kind of not. Like deep down,
Yeah.
But the USA won it in the manner in which the USA should have won it. I mean, as 1 to 2 favorites to win the Ryder Cup, they won it the way you would expect 1 to 2 favorites to win the Ryder Cup. And the only reason that's more surprising is because in recent years, when they have been heavy favorites, they've blown it. And so it was more surprising to just watch it and go, oh yeah, you know how the average world ranking of the US is way higher than the average world ranking of Europe? Turns out better golfers beat worse golfers most of the time. And whereas in recent years, that hasn't been the case. But, I'm sure Europe will come back more determined. a little bit stronger. There were some positives from a European standpoint. Hovland was good. John Rahm does look like he can be the sort of leader in the European team as the sort of best player, kind of going into it in Europe feeling like they might have the best player in the world on their team. So I think there's positives, and it will be interesting to see in Rome. But and I also have to say, I went to the Ryder Cup a couple of years ago. It's maybe the most enjoyable sporting event I've ever been to in person. So, and there I found the U.S. fans to be mostly quite charming, but they were also losing. So different atmosphere.
How do you transition that onto American football? You've spoken about the Americans.
Well, I'd like to talk about the real big loser of this weekend and this will be brief, but before we do go to the NFL. And the real big loser from this weekend was Anthony Joshua.
Oh, yes.
Because Anthony Joshua, I mean, what an awful performance. And just when we were kind of in this world where everyone was talking about how we have three great heavyweights at one time, and when was the fight between Fury and Joshua ever going to happen? I mean, if you're Fury, there's just no reason to ever have that fight now. And just a really sad performance from a boxer I like. I mean, Anthony Joshua seems like a really nice guy. He's just not exciting or compelling in any way.
Yeah, lost unanimous decision, right?
Unanimous decisions to Usyk, I think I'm not sure the correct way to pronounce it in Ukrainian.
Alexander.
Yeah. Who was, coming up in weight. So fighting above in a division he would not normally fight in. So you would have thought that the size and weight advantage that Anthony Joshua had and the punching power advantage, that he should have just been able to boss and dominate the fight. But in the end, he was super passive. Eddie Hearn, his promoter, has subsequently, they've released the scorecards. They had Anthony Joshua leading going into the 8th round. It would have been a shocking decision if Anthony Joshua had won. I mean, he then got destroyed in the final couple of rounds. But, I mean, it was just such a passive performance from him.
One thing that interests me about boxing is, like, one of the first things that came out about Joshua is obviously he had his first setback against, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had his first setback, came back. Ruiz, and then came back, won a few, obviously got back to where he was, and then lost this one. And so many people basically just say, that's it. There's no point coming back. He's done with boxing. And then Joshua comes out and says, look, I can't remember the words he uses. He's like, I'm not a crybaby, basically. I'm not a moaner. I'm going to be back. What is it about boxing that once you lose one thing, okay, let's say two at most, why is it all of a sudden like done, can't come back, gotta retire, this is all over?
So I think there's two reasons why nowadays you feel that. I don't think it would have been like that before. And when you look back through boxing greats, they almost all lost a few fights at different stages of their career as well, not all just at the tail end. I think the difference is nowadays they spend so much time avoiding their tough fights. And then when they lose to people they shouldn't. His losses to Usyk and Ruiz, they're two fighters who there's no way he should be losing to them. So that's what makes it look bad. If he'd lost to Tyson Fury, then you would say, okay, come back, have the rematch. In the same way that Wilder and Fury are going to have their third fight against each other. No one's telling either of them that they should retire. So I think it's who you're losing to. He's going to have the rematch. There is a rematch clause in the contract for this fight. So he's going to come back and beat him. And then I'm sure we'll have a year or two more of speculation of when will they fight. When will the Fury, assuming Fury beats Wilder, it will still be that. When will Fury fight Joshua? It will never happen. In the meantime, they'll both fight a couple of, also rans, beat each of them easily, and just kind of keep the speculation going. Oh, my only other thought too on the boxing from the weekend. I know that fighting in Madison Square Garden or in Las Vegas is the sort of pinnacle in the sense of the historical significance of fighting in either of those locations. but the atmosphere at Spurs' stadium, to have 100,000 people, as loud, and the singing and stuff that was going on, I mean, incredible. Just it totally transforms the experience of watching a fight versus just hearing people shout when there's some punches get landed. But yeah, I mean, if I were a boxer, that's where I want to be fighting now.
Everyone seems to be doing really well at Spurs' stadium except Spurs. like all of like the NFL are going there. Obviously, the atmosphere is great. They're gonna have like.
Here we go.
Sports.
Here's his plug. Here it comes.
No, zero plug.
All right, that we'll save that for later. We can go to the NFL now.
So,
but yeah, you do have Fury Wilder coming up too.
Yeah, that's in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting. That's always fun to watch because they just go after each other. That's a battle.
Which is, again, what makes Joshua and his performance in this fight look worse. Because you're going to see in 2 weeks just two men standing toe-to-toe throwing haymakers at each other, whereas he barely threw a power punch over the course of 12 rounds. So that's what makes it a little bit... You kind of watch that and think, either you have no confidence or you don't have it in you. And there are people out there who, I mean, you got Deontay Wilder, right, who claims he wants to kill someone in the ring, that would be something he'd like to have on his resume. So,
I mean, you get immediately arrested.
I guess it would depend on the context. But
well, he's already said he wants to kill someone. Yeah. If he then kills someone, that's premeditated murder.
True. Yeah, that does change it slightly. I guess, yeah. I think a good lawyer would probably... Well, that was the other thing too, and hey, if you're not following us on our social media account, go and follow the Big Chill Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram. I tweeted out Anthony Joshua did an Apollo Creed style entrance into the ring. He had like a dance number with fireworks going off behind him. How has someone in boxing not gone, Anthony, this won't look good? Like, the parallels are going to be there for everyone to see. I mean, let's hope you don't die, but still, maybe reduce the entrance so that it doesn't look quite so cocky.
Would you just walk out? No music?
I'd just walk out by myself. No music, dead silence, just staring at my opponent. I would just walk out, and I think that would be the most intimidating. I might give a little... Especially if you were at home, like if you were in Spurs Stadium there and you came out as the British fighter, you'd know that you'd get crowd noise as you came out. And I would just revel in that moment.
Would you do some like Hulk Hogan ES styles to the sides?
Exactly. Okay.
NFL.
And this is all, maybe not all, but putting aside a tremendous amount of winnings that have now been lost in 2 straight weeks, with the Chiefs blowing it. I mean, I don't even want to talk about like how angry I am on that part. But even putting that aside, this is someone who, before the season started, I would have said could potentially be the best quarterback of all time. And now this is back-to-back weeks where it seems to me like we talk about how he plays backyard football and how that's so amazing. But it seems to me now as if he really truly thinks he's just playing backyard football and that a lot of this doesn't matter. And I mean, the great example is the one that he's kind of getting ripped on this week is he had that no-look pass that then got intercepted. And while I agree, it hit the receiver's hands. It should have been caught, but it deflected off the receiver's hands and was intercepted. I get that part, that the receiver has a responsibility. At the same time, he had no reason to pull a running to the side, no-look pass. He could have stopped, looked right at that receiver, fired that ball in, and there was still no one within 5 yards of him. I mean, it wasn't like he was kind of looking off the safety, but the safety was so far away, he didn't need to do that. And that's disappointing me. I didn't think he was that type of player where I still would have said he's going to win the game because he wants to win and he's a winner. But it seems as if he doesn't care at this moment, and that's just disappointing. As someone who's a huge fan, that's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Patrick is not my Mahomie right now.
I mean, I think the parallels to me with Steph Curry continue to grow, which is that they came in, they were sort of transcendent talents. They changed the way the game was played. They were able to be universally loved at first. And then Steph Curry is still tremendously popular, but the level of cockiness that came about once they had success, which for Mahomes happened way earlier than it did for Steph Curry, but still, once they kind of had that, it made them significantly less likable for me. And that the element of it being fun to watch them do the backyard football or shooting from anywhere or whatever, it then turned into slightly disrespectful for their opponents and slightly disrespectful kind of to the game itself, which makes me seem like I should be sitting on NFL Countdown and be 75 years old and tapping my Super Bowl ring onto the counter. But it just, I don't know. It's not a playground. And I think, I'm a little concerned for the Chiefs at this point. And you know why I'm really concerned? Because I felt like I could not believe that the Chargers chose to score a touchdown and leave whatever that was, 37 seconds on the clock. The fact that they did that, if you're their kicker, I would just say I need to get off this team now, because they could have just knelt, and then as time expired, he could have kicked a chip shot field goal. So it means two things. They don't trust him with a chip shot field goal. And it also means that they trust their defense to just stop the Chiefs, even with 37 seconds, which if you went back a year or two, you would have said, and Romo reacted that way in the moment, you would have thought to yourself, oh, this is not smart.
See, I disagree with that take, especially when Romo was saying that, because it's 37 seconds to score a touchdown with they may have had a timeout left. I'm not sure.
They had one timeout. I think they had one.
Even with Mahomes, to go 80 yards in 35 seconds is a pretty astonishing feat. I mean, if you had said field goal, I agree. But I think that was taken a little out of proportion. I mean, there's not many that you're running 4 plays. So in 4 plays, they have to score.
No, you'll run way more than 4.
Fairly difficult.
You'll run way more than 4 with a timeout and the ability to get out of bounds. Yeah. If you have a good drive.
They ran 5 plays.
Yeah, because they messed it up. Because they got tackled in bounds on every single play, basically.
But that's what you do as a defense. And you cover the sidelines as a defense. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's really difficult to go 80 yards with 35 seconds and 1 timeout when the defense knows
you say that
you need a touchdown.
I mean, you say that, but we see teams do it on a weekly basis. And all those teams are not the Chiefs with the Chiefs' weapons around them. But I promise you, every weekend we see a team do that. I mean, I
don't know the last time I've seen a team won a game on a game-winning touchdown with 35 seconds. I would love to see that stat, because I don't think I've seen it in maybe once in the past 2 years.
Oh, that's insane. And Frank, your memory, we're not going to put that. We're not even going to throw that out as a.
I'm calling you out here. I want you to tell me the times that under 40 seconds with 1 or less timeouts, a team has scored a touchdown to win a game. I'll give you to next podcast.
I mean, yeah, look, you're asking me to be pro football focus here, too. You're now throwing additional elements with only 1 timeout. And look, I'm not disagreeing that. It makes a huge difference. But I don't have some database I'm able to quickly search through and put in these different filters and say, it's happened 7 times in the past 4 months. But look, I'm not saying it's easy, but we see it. And you can say, look, and not it's different because it was a field goal. But look at how quickly the Packers got the ball back in with exactly the same situation. They marched down the field. The Packers could have scored a touchdown against the Niners yesterday if they needed to. They then slowed they decided to kick that. But they found you were just getting open because what you're saying is, oh, protect the sidelines. I actually think too many defenses protect the sidelines too much, because then what they do is they give you 35 yards up the middle, which it's like, well, we use our first time out. Now we're at midfield. And then you do it again, and it's like, okay, we run up and spike the ball. And so say you started with 37 seconds, you can suddenly be on their 30-yard line with the clock stopped and 18 seconds to go. And
Well,
it's
the
like,
Packers
well,
did it with 3 seconds to go.
no,
Yeah.
but when? But the circumstances were different, Frank, because like then they wanted to kill the clock to kill the field goal. They would have been able to do it faster had they needed to. If you see what I mean, like they could have got to the line of scrimmage faster. They could have snapped the ball faster.
Can I
But
add one thing
moving-
about the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Just one thing. Like, this is really obvious, but I'm curious, right? So Mahomes still had a 250 plus game, 3 touchdowns as well. And I saw the stat that that was the 23rd time in 50 starts. So it's pretty awesome. Kind of like he's consistently still throwing high and performing well. But the Chiefs are just conceding more points than they used to. So I saw that it's like they've conceded 4 games in a row now, 25 plus. Mahomes loses games when they're 30 plus, which is kind of obvious. But is it just a case that Mahomes is doing the same stuff? He's just needing to do more because the defense is letting up more than they used to. Like, I know that sounds like an obvious thing, but is Mahomes having to be more risky because he has more points to take back now?
No, I know what you're saying, and you're right. Their defense is just can't stop anybody. But at the same time, they're turning the ball over a lot, and they never used to do that.
Is that because of the pressure of knowing that they aren't going to get as many stops on the other side?
I mean, a no-look pass that isn't an accurate one, that's not being aggressive. That's being sloppy. Fumbling the ball with 20 seconds left to kick a game-winning field goal last week, that's just being sloppy. That's what worries me, is the level of attention to detail. And I mean, they need to get it together quick, because they're 1-2 in a division right now that they're in last place. And that was the last time they've been in last place in over, was it 10 years or 15 years or like something crazy that they have been in last place. And, they've already lost one to the Chargers. So they're in a tough spot right now, and they need to turn it around quick and get that attention to detail. So that's what worries me about that team. But Eddie, I will shift the Chargers quickly onto the Giants, because what the Chargers did on that last drive is that they realized you need to go for it on 4th down, because field goals don't win NFL games. And this is a memo Joe Judge has missed for the 1,000th fucking time. And I'm so tired of a team that will maybe get 2 wins in a season playing conservative and kicking field goals on 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 in the red zone. You're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Just go for it. What are you trying to do at this point? Like, read the analytics, see what other teams are doing, see what teams that are winning are doing, and adjust your gameplay out of the 1980s. I'm so sick of this ultra conservative Joe Judge approach. It's not working. Field goals are not winning games.
I like to play slight devil's advocate here, which is the Giants are bad. The Giants are bad. They're never going to be good this year. Would you rather they win 4 close games and then have the 7th pick in the draft, versus lose virtually all of them and end up with a top 3 pick that allows them to, you would hope, pick a nailed-on superstar at the top end of the draft? And I think history would tell you that a lot of teams regret winning meaningless close games over the course of the NFL season. And I'm not saying that he's strategically doing it. I guess you could not rule it out. The idea that he said, hey, if we're going to lose the close games, the easiest way for me to do this is to make sure we're never scoring touchdowns when we have, it doesn't look like I'm throwing a game, but this is the best way for me to turn points down without it being flat out like match fixing. But
I will devil's advocate. the Giants seemingly have been doing that for the past 6-7 years now, and they've gotten top draft picks, and it just hasn't worked. So at this point, what are they still doing that for? I mean, here's a team though that should be 2-1 right now, and I mean could win their division.
I think this is what I also hate. Because none of these situations were at the end of games, the should be 2-1. It's like, well, maybe if they'd scored a touchdown, it changes the way the Falcons play.
He jumped off sides on the final field goal of the game to give them the win last week. That was literally the final play.
I know, but you're talking about the fact that overall they're turning down. Which problem were you talking about? The fact that they suck? Because if the fact that they suck and make bad mistakes, that's why they lose games and they're not good. But if we're talking about the fact that strategically their game management is not up to par, the fact that they are occasionally opting for 3 points then changes the way you're like.
No, I agree with you.
I'm
not one of those people that say like, had they kicked a field goal, then they have 2 more points and they would have won by 2 at the end. Like I'm fully on board with that. That's the dumbest logic of football fans in the planet. But I just think overall, if Joe Judge were a better coach and they were more disciplined and didn't jump off sides on a final play, they would be a better team. Like I don't find the need for the Giants to tank this season because they've tanked every other season and it's not working. Like unless they want to throw away the general manager.
That's not his fault,
start
though, right?
From scratch.
Well, yeah, you should be getting rid of a general manager. You should get rid of a general manager who takes Saquon Barkley with a high draft pick. A high draft pick running back is not going to do you any good.
Hey, he scored first time in a couple of years.
Yeah, but
will be.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Jones still fumbling. Some things never change.
I don't know. I mean, who do you think the best coach is in the NFL right now?
Sean McVay.
Okay, that's maybe a little controversial, but let's say yes. So if Sean McVay is the Giants coach right now, how much better are they?
3-0.
I mean, so they are polar opposite.
All right. And
it's been the Broncos, Washington, and the Falcons. So 3-0 isn't that outrageous.
Well, except you could say, I think the Broncos might be. It's difficult to tell because their start to their season has been easy, but the Broncos are 3-0. So I don't know why you just determined that the Giants would be the team that's going to beat them. But
I don't think the Broncos even come close to making the playoffs, all said and done.
Oh, I think the Broncos will make the playoffs now.
I mean, they've beaten 0-9 teams.
For starters, part of the reason early in the season, the teams you beat's record tend to be bad. Yeah, tend to be bad because you've guaranteed they've lost at least 33% of their games. So,
but if you're going to tell me the Jets and Giants are going to be good teams,
no. But I don't think anyone in the NFC East is a good team. So if your schedule involves playing NFC East teams, we're going to be able to poke holes in your schedule all season long. But I think that the Broncos are a good team. But I mean good. Not very good, not excellent, but they're good.
Who's a better 3-0 team, Broncos or Raiders?
I think it's close. I think the Raiders have the higher ceiling, but they make more mistakes. And I think yesterday's game that the Raiders won represented both of those elements. They almost threw that game away. At the same time, they showed when their offense is working really well, there's some unstoppable things that they run at times. And Derek Carr can be really, really good. He can be an elite level quarterback, just not consistently.
Yeah. The Raiders have beaten the Ravens, the Steelers at home, and the Dolphins. And the Broncos have beaten the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Giants.
I mean,
just saying.
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. Aside from the Ravens are the standout team from that set of, because you think the Steelers are terrible. The Steelers do look pretty terrible right now. The Dolphins are no great shakes, right? And okay, the Ravens, but the Ravens, I don't even know how good the Ravens are. I think the Ravens are like I think they're going to try and throw us off all season.
I think the Ravens are who I think they are.
Yeah. I don't think they'll win that division. I mean, none of us picked them to, right? So,
Sam, how about your Bengals? How about Joe Burrow?
Well, it's just kind of hilarious, that game against the Steelers, right? Because they had to fundamentally do nothing to score 24. I mean, when you look at kind of the stats of it, right? I saw what was the crazy stat? It was saying like the Steelers didn't get a sack for the first time in 76 games. And that seems pretty crazy because, the Steelers rely on their defense at the moment, and they just weren't able to stop anything. And the interesting thing is, when you look at kind of the stats of the game, they almost doubled what the Bengals did in yardage, in terms of passing yardage. They did nothing in the run game, but then again, Bengals only posted just under 100. Just the Bengals were able to just kind of march down the field quicker. And if it wasn't for kind of, what was it, the 4 sacks for Ben? The Steelers look pretty bad at the moment. And that's not to say that the Bengals look good. I just think the Bengals could have done anything that game and probably won. The way the Steelers played it, they're pretty atrocious. But pretty good start though. I mean, considering they'd only won 3 in the previous 2 seasons, it's pretty nice to be going into this 2-1 basically. So
yeah, they'll slip away over the course of the year, but enjoy it while it lasts.
Oh, it's an overreaction, and I love it. But it's nice just to see it happen, I guess.
So a few other, I think, slight overreactions from one game that maybe seems to be leveling out. The Bills, who in 1 week people thought maybe they weren't one of the better teams in the AFC, and now again look like one of the better teams in the AFC. And
yeah, I mean, you could make the same argument. Who are they beating? But
yeah. And what about the Saints? The Jekyll and Hyde New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's what we said going into it, right? That's what they are. And you can't pick them with any confidence. People should just stay away from it in general. 1 week, Jameis Winston is going to throw for 400 yards, 6 touchdowns, and the next week he's going to throw 6 interceptions. So, there will be no surprises in how surprising their season is.
I would say one of the things I kind of like from all this is that Darnold's move to the Panthers is looking really good.
Yeah.
What is he? He's won 3 straight games. He's had 300 plus passing yards in 2 or 3 games, and he only had 4 in 38 of the Jets. Yeah, so it's looking good, and they're making the Panthers look good. It's making him look good.
He's had a nice early schedule. Solid. Let's see how he does, because I don't know what the projected recovery time on McCaffrey is from his hamstring injury, but I'm going to assume he might miss a game or 2 because of that. In the very least.
This was a controversy we were talking about at the bar on Saturday. Did he injure his hamstring and then jump in the air because it was injured, or did he try and do that like jump hop thing that running backs like to do, where they kind of like hop in the air, then like and step down and like pivot off of it? And did he hurt it when he jumped in the air and re-landed? Because I said it was he did that like jump hop juke move and then hurt it, but other people were saying he hurt it and that's why he jumped. This was like a pretty heated debate we had in the bar.
What a night. I'll have to watch it again, and I'll tell you on Thursday I'll come back with a detailed analysis.
Just ask him, text him if you can.
I'll send a text to Chris, as I call him.
I call him CM. I agree though with Darnold obviously feeling a lot better. And speaking of text messages, I wonder if he yet has texted Zach Wilson to kind of tell him that life gets better. Like, just stick it out. Life will get better once you beat the Jets.
It's going to be miserable for a few years.
Yes.
It's going to be really awful for the next 3 to 4, but then after that, who knows? Maybe you'll win a couple games.
Yep.
I feel good for him. I don't like to see any athlete go through a really tough time. So, and to see them kind of publicly fail to the degree with which Sam Darnold did with the Jets. So it's nice to see, if nothing else, right? when his career ends, he'll try and be able to point now and say, look, I was a capable NFL quarterback, which is what people probably would have questioned had he not signed with another team after the Jets. So I don't think it's going to amount to anything special. And I think over the course of the year, the Panthers are good. He has a good team around him, but I don't think it's not like I suddenly think they're going to make a deep playoff run and we're going to see Sam Darnold making amazing plays in January.
No. It's interesting you bring up, Eddie, you don't like seeing people be publicly humiliated. And that definitely brings up Justin
Athletes,
Fields.
I said.
Justin
Athletes.
Fields.
This brings
other
up
people
Justin
I like
Fields.
Yeah, that was
who,
bad.
Sunday night, Dan Orlovsky, who's on Sunday NFL Countdown and Primetime and all these shows, said that head coach Nagy for the Bears should be fired today, Monday, the following day, because of how bad of a game plan he put in, and that it seemed as if he purposely was setting him up to fail and almost to get in, to the extent that he almost seemed like he wanted him to get injured by the way he ran the offense, where he took 20 pass attempts and 15 out of the 20, he did not put one extra person besides the minimum 5 people blocking, which then led to him getting sacked 9 times in that game. And even halfway through the third quarter, after he had gotten whatever it was, like 6 sacks, he still didn't even adjust any of the protection packages and was leaving him with 5 linemen to defend a team that obviously they could not defend. And they were comparing it to what's his face, Jay Gruden with Dwayne Haskins, where that was Gruden did not like Haskins from the start, did not want him, and put him out there without any chance of success to kind of prove that he thought he was bad, and that it seems Nagy's doing almost the same.
I think it's tough. I think if I were Nagy, it would have been frustrating. And the media and fans, but the media, because fans don't have a responsibility to be sensible. You know that they are not supposed to have a reasoned opinion consistently on their own teams. People in the media do have a responsibility to be more sensible. And I think when you look at how people have pushed forward this idea that Fields was going to be some magical cure-all for the Bears, I think that might have been frustrating if you were in the Bears camp and maybe not seeing a quarterback performing at the standard where you thought, yeah, if we throw this guy in the deep end, he's going to be fine. And I don't think it's impossible for me to imagine that he intentionally set him up to fail. But maybe he did think to himself, oh, here is this guy who you all thought I was an idiot for not putting out on the field and you thought was NFL ready from day one. And I'm not going to set him up to fail, but I am going to show you why he's definitely not NFL ready from day one and that we need to be patient with him. Again, I'm not even sure if that's the case. I think it's one of those.
It's a hell of a long game in thought process. Yeah, hell of a long. I mean, but then again, they had one of the worst offenses last season as well. So, like Eddie said, was this meant to be completely revolutionary?
But, I mean, the way people were talking about it, literally the way people were talking about it, you would have thought that Justin Fields was the greatest NFL prospect in history, and that as soon as you put him on the field, the Bears offense was going to be like the Rams from the early 2000s and just unstoppable. Yeah. And I think as a coach, that legitimately might have, because people were calling him an idiot for not having Fields out there, for opting to have Dalton. They were saying it was fireable that he started the season with. I mean, he's fired. Everything he does is fireable, supposedly, and he probably should be fired. But everything he does, he's got to be fired now.
Isn't that kind of the point, though? If he does something every week that is sackable, he should be sacked, right?
Yes and no, but it's also just people have made up their mind that he needs to be,
Yeah. We touched on it when we previewed this game last week, that he wasn't the superstar in college. He wasn't even Trevor Lawrence coming out of college. He was a good QB who was highly mobile, could make plays, but also missed a lot of passes, seemed to be very slow at reading his progressions. So I think you're right, is that the Bears fans had some false hope that he was going to come in and be the next Patrick Mahomes in his first game, which is crazy to think. But here, I just have the full quote from Orlovsky is, yesterday you showed us that you are either incapable of designing the proper game plan around a dynamic quarterback, or you showed us that it was intentional, you wanted him to fail, and you set him up to be a disaster.
And even then, right, he uses kind of loaded terms there, a dynamic quarterback. The implication there is that Justin Fields is a quarterback who's capable of being he's currently capable of being successful in the NFL. It's an assumption that he is making. And I mean, there might have also been, who knows what conversations were going on the sideline. Maybe he had the Bears offensive line coming off the field and saying, there could be 50 of us and we can't stop them.
The last talking point I had, I think, for the NFL is, after this week, well, you still have the Cowboys and Eagles game that we have not watched yet, but assuming this is not part of it, who is the best team in the NFL right now?
No one.
If you had to make a list, who is number one, Eddie?
But it's actually a fair point, right? Because so many teams have overachieved in one game, underachieved in another, and then played competently in one, for example, like the Saints or the Packers or the Patriots. Like, so many have had, I mean, I might say the Rams at the moment. I think they have been probably the standout at the moment in terms of like dominant performances and also beating good teams as well. So I'd pick the Rams, but there's so many teams at the moment that have just had an up and down game and then a competent game, for example, and then they've gone 2-1.
Yeah. I mean, I think after maybe week 5, I'll be able to say who I think the best team is. But I think I could create a tier right now and put a couple teams in the first tier, but I don't think I could. I'm not confident enough to say it, because I'm going to pick a team as the best team and they're going to lose next week. And that's great. I mean, it's always, everyone wants parity in sports. It's not a bad thing, but I don't think there is a standout team. I don't know if there will be over the course of the season. I don't think any team should have sort of prohibitive Super Bowl odds. Part of me still feels like the Chiefs.
If I ask you to put together a power rankings, you choose not to participate? Is that what you're telling me?
That should be my thing. If I was on ESPN right now, this would be my hot take. I would just group a bunch of teams at the top of my power ranking, and then the power rankings would start at 7. If I had to put a team number 1 right now, I think it has to be the Rams in a power ranking, just from having just beaten the Bucks. They beat the Bucks pretty handily too. It wasn't a close game. So I think from for that reason, you have to put them at number 1. But I don't. Putting them number 1 in a power ranking system is different from me saying I think they're the best team in the NFL, because I need to see. There's also this element with the Rams where we've seen them be amazing in regular seasons before under Sean McVay. I mean, particularly the one season when they went to the Super Bowl, and their offense just looks unstoppable until it stops. And I'm always going to have that doubt in my mind until I see them win a Super Bowl with that approach. And I think that's part of the issue why I don't feel comfortable putting them as a clear number 1.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the Rams deserve to be number 1 right now, but it's still very early to tell. Next week could be a better indicator when they play the undefeated 3-0 Cardinals. So that could be a nice matchup for next week. That also, could be a nice matchup for MVPs. Kyler Murray versus Stafford.
Yeah, maybe.
If the Rams go 14-3 and Stafford continues to play the way he's playing, does he deserve to be MVP? Taking a team that was a second-tier team to now being one of the best in the NFL, and the only thing they've really changed is him?
It's impossible for me to answer in a vacuum where I don't know what anyone else achieved. You know, are the
No,
Broncos?
Everyone stayed exactly what they're.
What do you
Are
want
the
to know?
Broncos
Stafford.
are the Broncos undefeated?
No, they didn't
know?
make the playoffs. I told you that already.
Have the Bills lost another game?
Yes, the Bills lost 4 games.
Did they beat the Cardinals in their divisionals?
The Rams go undefeated against the Cardinals.
Has anyone thrown for more yards than Stafford in this scenario?
Yes. Tom Brady.
Wait, okay. And what's the Bucks record?
The Bucks have 3 losses as well.
Then Tom Brady would be MVP.
I mean, odds-wise, they're all basically identical. So, like Stafford, Mahomes, Murray, Brady. Stafford's 13-2, Brady's 8-1. So you can kind of throw a blanket.
I don't think Tom Brady will be NFL MVP. I'm just saying the scenario in which Frank has created. I think Tom Brady wins the MVP. If you can tell me that at the end of the year, the Buccaneers have lost 2 more games and Tom Brady is top of the leading the NFL in passing yards, then I would have him as odds-on favorite to win the MVP.
Stafford's number 2, though, in that scenario.
Doesn't matter. It's Tom Brady. He's 44, leading the league in passing yards, coming off as Super Bowl champion. He's winning it. The really interesting race, I guess, is going to be Rookie of the Year. Can they just not have a winner this year? I don't know. And I know that there's players in other positions making a big impact, but it does hurt the class when all of the quarterbacks start to fail.
It's a shame when people like Burrows obviously played like a few games, got injured, because this is, for all intents and purposes, their rookie season, right? But obviously they don't get categorized as such.
I mean, you have Jamar Chase right now. He's got to be the front runner for the Bengals. He's got, I think, 5 touchdowns in 3 games.
Yeah,
as a receiver who couldn't catch a ball in preseason and now can't seem to miss.
Yeah. But no, there's some good games actually looking ahead to next week.
Really
I know we'll do our picks on the next episode, but I mean, for the NFC West, right? Rams, Cardinals, Niners, Seahawks at the same time. That's the Seahawks, right? We talked about big winners and losers. The Seahawks could end up being one of the big losers, because if they lose that game to the Niners, they're in big trouble in terms of their chances of making the playoffs.
They're done.
It would be very Pete Carroll-ish to win this game, is all I will say. Now, we didn't really talk about it, but I guess we do have to mention, though, the Justin Tucker field goal, right? Like, you can't get through reacting to this week and not talk about someone kicking a record-breaking, game-winning field goal. That, I mean, it's strange because when he lined up to kick it, I gave him no chance in watching it. It just seemed unkickable. Then when he kicked it, when it left his foot and it was headed towards the uprights, it was like, oh, this thing is going to sail through. Like, his reaction too, from when he hit it, he looked very confident. So there was that moment of thinking, okay, this is going through. Then it hits the crossbar, and you have to, at that moment, you think there's no way it's going in, having hit the crossbar, and somehow did. I mean, incredible achievement.
It was crazy. When I watched it live on the bench right before my hockey game, I actually brought my phone with me to the warm-up for the hockey game because that drive and the Chiefs drive was going on. So I was like, I got to watch this. And when it bounced off of the crossbar, I didn't know, like, you couldn't tell what happened from the angle. And then you just saw the place erupted. And then I was like, wait, what? And then you realize that it bounced and went, over the uprights instead of bouncing and going.
It went super high too off the bounce.
Yeah.
It was a big bounce it took.
It was cool. It's a neat way to get the record, I think. It makes the record I don't know, like, just that much more unique because people will never forget that kick. Like, oh yeah, the NFL record, that 66-yarder. Oh yeah, right, that's the one that it hit the upright and went over. Oh, that was crazy for the game winner. It's a good kick to have as the record.
I also think
memorable.
it's good. I think it was good that it was a game winner. I mean, it would have been impressive no matter what, but say contrast it with the Cardinals attempting it at the end of a half in a game that they went on to win by, nearly 20 points or whatever the final score was. That's a very different way to break the record versus thinking, okay, not the most important game that Justin Tucker will ever play in, and not the game that decides what the outcome of the Ravens season will be, but still in a tight division, they need wins. And so a game that you would have expected them to have won fairly easily, it was an important win for them. It's cooler that it was a game-winning field goal and not just, hey, we're up by 30. Why don't we run Justin Tucker out there and see if he can get this one?
Is that going to become not a problem, but in the same way that they in golf, they put the tee back because golfers are just monstering it now. We're 4 yards off. Sorry, 3 yards off, right? It was 66. We're 4 yards off someone having a solid shot from the halfway line here. Like, it's at what point does it then become like, I don't really know about like the progression of kicks. I did see the stat though that the Lions lost to a record-breaking field goal once before in the 70s, and that was 63 yards. So it's not like it's taken 50 years to do 3 yards. It's obviously just some people are just kind of freaks for their time, but inevitably the trend is upwards, right? So are we going to have a problem here with the size of the pitch, or just the fact that
No, because the thing that's going to stop you is the trajectory you have to hit the ball at, and it's the height of the people in front of you. It's the getting blocked that's the big issue the further away you go, and the trajectory that it has to leave your foot at. So that's what's going to be the limitation on the distance that you can hit a field goal from. So I don't think the record will be broken. We're never going to see people hitting 85-yard field goals, but we are going to see more and more kickers hitting high 50s, low 60-yard field goals, and most teams are going to then feel comfortable. Okay, we're on and around the halfway line. We can try and win the game from here. Which, going back to the idea of the 37-second game-winning drive, it's going to change a lot when the other team thinks we need 25 yards. Like, that's from, if we have a touchback and we get 25, 30 yards, we feel pretty comfortable, which is basically what the Ravens did in that game. It does change the dynamic a lot.
Yeah, it's just, and it's always funny because you have that juxtaposition where they can make a 66 game yard winning field goal, but then the week before the Vikings missed, what was that, a 33 yarder for the win. So that's always the thing that baffles me about kicking is you still see,
it
again,
like
we talk about it every year, the extra points. I mean, the Chargers, that could have been costly. They missed that one at the end to make it a 6-point game instead of a 7. And even though we just argued about whether the Chiefs had enough time, had they scored, they lose that game because of a missed extra point. It's crazy.
Now, I guess we were talking about which team is the best in the NFL. The conversation about which team is the best in the Premier League got a little bit more interesting after the weekend. Frank, you and I spoke about going into it, how it felt like certainly not a must not lose game for City if they wanted to keep pace with Chelsea. I don't think it was must win, but it would have been, the gap would have started to feel pretty big had they lost. Instead, it was about as emphatic as a 1-0 victory I think you'll ever see. They were in complete control. I mean, they battered them. It should have been 4 or 5-0. Which my big takeaways from it were, it didn't change my opinion of either team, which is we know when things click for City, they're pretty unplayable. And on Saturday, things clicked for them. But also for Chelsea, it was the kind of anti-football approach, which when it doesn't work, really looks bad. Because, I mean, even after they were 1-0 down, it looked like they were settling for losing 1-0. It was very bizarre. Like, they didn't seem to try to get back into the match, bar one Lukaku disallowed goal, rightfully disallowed. They never looked threatening. It was very, very strange.
Yeah, the only takeaway I had, I'll let you guys talk about. I was going to say, we talked about how it was kind of a must not lose for City, but someone should have told Chelsea it was still a must show up because they didn't even seem to be on the pitch for half of that game. That was bad.
It was limp, considering how, like you've said, that there was direction to be had from that game. Like, we've had enough games now to understand a type of direction. I think we even said it like last season for Man City when they're about 10 or 11 in. And we said like there was a moment where they had to change it, and they changed it, and lo and behold, just went on to pretty much become unplayable. But interesting, right? You've got like Man U obviously slipped up against Villa as well. You would say that Liverpool slipped up against Brentford because there was points to be had there. So I'm not going to talk about Arsenal. we won't talk about the Arsenal optimism.
We can briefly mention the Arsenal match, but we're not going to mention it when we're talking about teams who can win the title.
Oh, overreaction. Arsenal Bengals double.
We can finish our discussion about City and Chelsea and the title race, and then we can talk about mid-table teams winning matches.
You're such a twat for being able to provide like the surrounding context of what I'm about to say. But no, it's obviously, what was interesting about that game for me was actually hearing the Emirates Stadium sound. Like,
wait, hold on a second. I said we're not talking about that yet.
Stop trying to do it.
I'm allowed to do it for the North London derby.
Let's finish.
Hey,
Sam, let's finish the reaction to what was the most important game of the weekend, and then we can talk about the North London derby. But I thought the most telling thing was the reaction also of the City players after the victory. They really enjoyed it, you could tell. I think it did two things. The first was it got rid of Chelsea have had a bit of a hoodoo over City in recent years. Obviously the Champions League final and then also the FA Cup semi-final. I think there's an element of being able to get rid of that. But also I think for City that felt like a statement win, and you could tell from their reaction that it kind of maybe they got a little bit of their swagger back over the course of those 90 minutes, whereas they had the disappointment of ending last season by losing the Champions League final and then starting this season with two matches where they've dropped points. I think it felt like a momentum shift, which is, we're 6 matches into the season and there are 5 teams on 13 points and Liverpool top on 14, so it's not as if there's any gap appearing, but it did feel a little bit like that. We could get to the end of the season and point to this match and say that's when things started to change.
It also just took a bit of the heat off Guardiola's recently fan exchange as well. I think it's easy to focus on things off the pitch when it's not going well on the pitch. So I think for City just to kind of have that return to form just means that kind of fan v Guardiola thing, even though it was very cordial, it's just kind of been swept under as well. So yeah, I think that helped. I think it was a pretty, like you say, I think it's not, the result itself isn't a statement win. You're not going to remember that and go 1-0. That was incredible. But right now it was the dominance of that performance that truly matters.
And now, before we move on to the North London derby, I just want to say I have to abandon one of my preseason predictions already, which is I thought Norwich would stay up. And I'm just going to go ahead and say they're relegated. It's 6 games into the season, but I'm just going to say they're relegated. And I genuinely have to ask the question, is there a chance that they could break the record for the fewest number of points in a Premier League season, which currently stands at 11? Derby County did that in 2008, I think it was.
Every time I hear it, it's more special. The 11
and
points.
They're currently sitting on a whopping 0.
So they need 12 more to break the record, which is just 4 wins.
They don't need 12 more. They need 12. They don't have anything to add to more.
There's always one candidate in a season, right? But Norwich so far look like one of the best candidates for it. I don't know what their run is recently, or for the next 5 or 6. But
so I mean, they haven't necessarily had the easiest start to the season. So they lost.
I can tell you what they have next.
But they lost to Liverpool on the opening day of the season, or no, they lost to was Newcastle on the opening day of the season. Then they lost to Liverpool. Then they lost to City. They've lost to Arsenal and Leicester. And then they lost to Watford and Everton. Next, they have Burnley, which will be...
Yeah.
That's a big test. If they've got 0 points coming out of that match with Burnley, then I wouldn't say that 11 points is seriously in play, because that is a pathetic turn. Like, at some point, you just pick up results. You know, you scrap a win that you didn't deserve. You get a couple of draws that you maybe didn't deserve, and suddenly at Christmas you've got 8 points, and it's unimaginable that you only pick up 3 points in the second half of the season. So I don't know. I don't think they'll break the record, but it would be interesting.
Do you think they clear 20?
No.
I mean, before the Christmas break, they have Newcastle, Leeds. I'm trying to see if there's anyone else really low. And Burnley, I guess, right? So you have to get points from those three. If they go into the break still with 0, they're done.
Yeah. And also, right, they're following this. I think when they were last relegated, they lost their last 8 or 9 matches in a row. So they have a Premier League losing streak that's something like 15 or 16 matches at this point. So that also doesn't make for great reading, even if they manage to get promoted between those two sequences. But, all right, now let's turn our attention to Arsenal, who had their best result of the season. They beat Spurs 3-1. Basically killed the game off in the first, half an hour. They were 3-0 up. And yeah, congratulations, Sam.
I mean, when Arsenal got kind of pumped in those 3 games, Brentford, Man City, Chelsea, we looked at that kind of like 5 or 6 that they had after, and there was the toughest game in the middle of it was Spurs. And obviously we were talking about that Spurs game after Spurs won the first 3. It's great to see Arsenal win that game, and obviously the previous 2 before that. But the important thing for Arsenal now is to win the next 2 as well, because they're winnable. I think it's Brighton and maybe Palace, I think, are the next 2. So it's really important that Arsenal win those games. But as much as Arsenal were good, and Arsenal were very good, and there were some slight formation changes in there that made a lot of sense, Spurs were just abjectly poor. Like they look really, really clueless. And it's kind of worth remembering, though, that Arsenal did almost try their best. So it needed that incredible Ramsdale save at the end to not make it 3-2. And then you think for like 3 or 4 minutes there's a big problem. But on the whole of it, Arsenal fully deserved the win. Spurs look really poor, though. I mean, what a transitional change between the 2 North London clubs, right? You've got Arsenal didn't score 0 points first 3 games. Spurs win the first 3.
Yeah. Look, we're talking about 6 games. Let's talk about transition.
No, I know,
change.
but I'm just saying
there's not some massive transformation from 3 matches to 3 matches. But you're right.
It's a big flip in fortunes, and also just perceptions of what people are talking about at the club. Like
the thing I don't get is Nuno was an attacking manager with Wolves, and yet he's gone to Spurs and somehow managed to make them more defensive than they were under Mourinho.
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
But also, Kane, no one's shooting. What was it? They went into that game against Arsenal with the lowest shot count in the league, or something like that, or one of them anyway. And that blows my mind when you've got the people that he has to have them so defensively focused or minded that they're not even hitting the target.
I genuinely feel sorry for Harry Kane. I mean that honestly. I feel really sorry for him.
This is
and
awful.
what it bothered me a little bit was after the City Chelsea match in the kind of post match on Sky or BT Sport. It was BT Sport, I guess. We're doing. And they said, "Oh, look, everyone said that City needed Kane to beat big teams, and look, they managed to win 1-0. Jesus." And it's like, yeah, Jesus scored. He played well, Jesus, but he scored a goal that took a massive deflection. They created countless chances, and on the break looked like they were going to always create a chance and score. And one of your takeaways could be, look, they don't need someone up front to be there hanging around the penalty spot and finishing off these chances because they won 1-0. The other one was actually kind of close to finishing 0-0 had it not been for that deflection. And then just that deflection has made everyone in the post-match analysis go, see, they didn't need him. If it had finished 0-0, they would have gone, oh, they're crying out for Harry Kane because it created a ton of chances. They haven't finished any of them. And Harry Kane must be looking at it thinking he would have had a hat-trick against Chelsea if he'd been playing for City, which he probably would have done.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I bet Levy or whoever would have given Kane some assurances about like the team or what's happening or the setup there, and whatever's happened, he
probably said, sure. Don't worry, we won't be as defensive as we were under Mourinho.
Yeah.
And then quietly whispered, it will be more.
Yeah, won't be as defensive. Or like Levy's got like his fingers crossed behind his back as he's saying it to Kane, just like really childish.
Yeah, be interesting. I mean, the big news though, right? Sam and I are going to see each other in person in 3 days. Be the first time that any of us have seen each other in person since we started doing this podcast, which is actually kind of a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
Wow.
You jealous?
Where are you guys going to see each other?
A bathhouse.
You guys are renting a house in Bath?
Yeah. Now, it will be in Paris. Sam is coming over for the Arc. The greatest, what is set to be the greatest arc in the history of the Arc, and maybe the greatest race in the history of horse racing. And we'll obviously preview that on Thursday, which by then at least will also give us a better sense of what the weather will be like. Still trying to get our media passes. So if you're out there listening and you do have anything to do with French horse racing media passes, they are ignoring my emails. It is tremendously frustrating.
That is, you are crying out for the most specific person.
I know who the person is. I've added a couple people on LinkedIn. I've filled in all the necessary forms. We qualify based on all the standards that they set out. Just won't respond to me. Don't like it. And I know where the media center is. I'll just go and complain on the day.
Listen to my podcast. You just kind of tap into the broadcasting system. Listen to
Let's just hold my phone up on the glass window. It's all glass windows.
For 2 hours.
Look, what we say gets recorded.
If I know you, Eddie, you'll definitely go and complain. You'll schedule in that time in your day to make sure
actually,
you
the
have
media,
at least 20 minutes to complain to the media office.
I do know exactly where the media center is at Longchamp, and it's you walk by it when you go from the finish line to the paddock. So I don't need to schedule any time. I'm going to walk by it at least 7 times.
Well, I guess not much of a spoiler alert, but one of the talking points for the Arc is St. Mark's Basilica is officially out now that he's been retired. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not been a good couple of weeks for Ballydoyle, and it's weird, right? Because the quote regarding St. Mark's Basilica's retirement is that it's maybe the best horse they've ever had, which is a strong statement.
Yeah, possibly the best we ever had in Ballydoyle was the quote. So it's unfortunate. Although it's tough to say because it's still not even through RPR ratings. It's not even the number one in the nation right now. So it's a tough sell, I think.
But yeah, but I'll save all of my thoughts, tips for Thursday. We'll do a nice runner by runner guide.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait till Thursday. Until then, I'll talk to you boys later.
See ya.
Cheerio.